Hey everybody, this is the first of hopefully many crypto updates. The plan is to keep you up to date, keep it brief, and most importantly get you what you need to get those crypto gains. Alright, so let's kick it off. What's been going on with the crypto markets this week? Obviously earlier in the week we hit all-time highs with Bitcoin. There was also the release of that Bitcoin ETF with a lot of others underway. This is definitely bullish for the space as we see more traditional players now having a more familiar way to get exposure. I think the biggest question right now on people's mind is after we came off of the 67K that we saw during the week, right now as of the recording of this video, I think the price is sitting around 61K and change. Where do we go from here? And so hopefully in the next few minutes, we can get a better feel by looking at some of the data that I'm about to show you. So how I interpret most cryptocurrencies is a mixture of on-chain data as well as other data that I find very useful. On-chain data right now is all pointing to upward price movement. And so what do I mean by on-chain data? Basically, if you're looking at, say the number and size of transfers that come from known services and unknown addresses, you can construct weekly metrics to gauge basically the direction of which way the price is headed. Historically, when these transfers are outpacing the historical average, specifically for certain addresses, that tends to correlate with upward price movement in the days ahead. And right now we're seeing that play out with on-chain data. So what you see on the left right now is if we use on-chain indicators, that's the red line, that tends to sizably outbeat a buy and hold strategy, which is the yellow line that you see. And the axis, the y-axis that's just the cumulative return over this time frame. You see in 2020 and 2021, huge outperformance if we incorporate on-chain analytics into our process. What you're seeing on the right is what I've coined the snafu indicator. I feel a little bit conflicted sharing it because it's pretty damn good. The reason I'm calling it that is because it does a hell of a job predicting if the market is going to take a large tumble. And what the chart is showing right there at the bottom right is when things are in red, obviously Bitcoin isn't doing too well. And then when things are in green, it's happy days. And you may be thinking, it's great you pulled out your colored pencils for this, but I can make out from the chart on my own when things are going up and down. But just a sec. Because what's different about this is a model, and it's actually predicting if the market will tank on the following day. So when I'm saying model, I actually mean there's machine learning being incorporated into it. And all of the reds you see on the chart, it's all predicted. So you would have already sold your position at that point and not have suffered those nasty drawdowns. And on the flip side, when the indicator says we're back to normal or green, you'd crush it. One thing I think is important to clarify though is this indicator on the right, the snafu indicator, it isn't going to tell you if you'll make or lose money tomorrow. What it will do though is give you a pretty damn good sense if the market is about to tank. Because with any market, and especially Bitcoin, there'll be minor ups and downs, but you really want to be on the watch for the big ones, and that's what this is going to do. So the snafu indicator is saying all systems are go and risk on. If you mesh these two things together, the snafu indicator and the on-chain analytics, they're both saying the bull run has some ways to go. So what about Ethereum? On-chain data for Ethereum is also saying risk on. What I'm looking for with Ethereum, historically, when addresses are sending Ethereum and the size and number of these transfers are less than the historical average, that's bullish for the price. Taking a step back, you may ask, how am I getting all of this data? Well, if you look at a block explorer, you can get a sense of some of the addresses and whether or not they belong to a known service, like say Uniswap, for instance. And if the amount of smaller transfers being sent from DeFi services like Uniswap, this lags its historical average, that's also a good sign for the price of Ether. Now we're seeing this happen with the on-chain data, and the snafu indicator for Ethereum is also going green. So with votes of confidence from both of these sides, we should be bullish for the week to come. One last thing to include here is a related section on the stock market. The snafu indicator doesn't just work for crypto. While there's certain specifications needed for a particular market, the methodology also works when we examine the stock market. While we may not all be as heavily interested in the stock market, I think it's a good way to show how the indicator can be used to beat the market. So if you look at the chart, the snafu indicator on the S&P manages to dodge the '08 crash as well as the crash last year. So if you were to take this and potentially devise a strategy around it. Say you're long the S&P ETF, so say SPY when the indicator is green, and then you trade out of the SPY and go into a long-term treasury ETF like TLT. That's what I'm showing here. Basically, this switching portfolio, which I've labeled the indicator portfolio, drastically outperforms the buy and hold strategy. The indicator portfolio has an annualized return of 15.1%, whereas the buy and hold portfolio only annualizes at 10.8, which isn't nothing, but it's certainly far less than what you could do if you use the snafu indicator. I guess one thing to note though is 15% or 12% or 10%, none of this really compares to what's going on in the crypto space. And I'm not going to lie, that's 100% true. So why, I guess, am I including this? I mean, well, some of us tend to have our portfolios diversified with some stocks. And I think this is a good way to add to your process to potentially mitigate losses. So that's it for now. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for more regularly updated quality content like this, and hit like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next big play.